1160. I look up and, well, guess who's sitting over there? That's old Dave Janusek. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Marino. It is good to be here on a cold morning here in Indiana.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, today we're heated by gas, and that's wonderful, and electricity, and we have all of those wonderful advantages. It wasn't always that way in our homes. We were heating with coal and wood and everything else in our old homes, and some of those old homes are still quite vital homes, and there are a bunch of them in the Blairsville area. How's that for a lead-in?
That is true. And I tell you what, you are the king of the what is that? The pivot.
Yeah.
Perfect lead-in to talk a little bit about today the first annual Blairsville Historic Homes Tour. It's going to be sponsored by the Blairsville Area Underground Railroad. And kind of the neat thing, it's April 7th from 2 to 6 p.m. Tickets are $20 a piece. Unless you are under the age of 12, you get to come in free with your parents. Mm-hmm. Now, the neat thing is there's only going to be 200 tickets. Well, that's not the neat thing, though. One thing is there'll be only 200 tickets printed and sold. But the neat thing is we're going to do 6 historic homes and 1 historic building in Blairsville. But the twist is going to be it's historic. So when you come into the home, there will be a historic interpreter that either built the home, lived in the home, or was a prominent resident of the home.
100 and some years ago.
100 and some years ago, right. Many of these homes, I can tell you the Pitcairn home was built in 1875.
Wow.
Still functional home.
Mr. Pitcairn's going to be there to greet us.
Mr. Pitcairn and Mrs. Pitcairn Ritchie. So they're going to be there to greet you. And the owner will obviously talk about a lot of the amenities that have been changed and, different parts of the house. But the original owner will be there to talk about, this is when we moved here. This is where we built it. This is why we moved to Blairsville. This is a prominent part that we played not only in Blairsville history, but a lot of national history. If you know your history, a couple of neat things. The Pitcairns were cousins to the original founders of Pittsburgh Plate Glass. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Pitcairn was big with the Pennsylvania Railroad. So the house, that home, particular home, would be the station master's home. 2 doors away is the home that was once the Blairsville Women's Seminary.
Oh, okay.
So it's many years ago, so you'll have, some of the owners there. Another interesting thing, you talked about coal. One of the homes on the tour will be one of the Graff historic homes. Senator Wilbur Graff will be there greeting participants in the tour. He was a senator. He also was big in coal, and that's why I bring this up. The home across the street, the Artley home, at one point, Senator Graff had President Taft come to visit the Blairsville area.
Really?
To talk to the coal. It's about tariffs. So this is, 100 years ago, they were still talking about tariffs.
Is Willie going to be there?
Wilbur will be there. But the interesting thing about Artley, I think you'll enjoy this because of your interest in presidents. Do you know anything about President Taft?
I know much about President Taft.
Well, that's a very good segue because there's much to know about President Taft because he was a rather large individual. And whenever Senator Graff had him come to Blairsville, and then they went to Pittsburgh and talked to the coal industry. Senator Graff, let's say that President Taft's voracious appetite preceded him.
Okay.
So Senator Graff had...
he knew he had to fill the larder.
Well, he did, but he knew he wasn't going to be the one to fill it and had him stay at the Artley house across the street.
So they had to feed him.
Absolutely. So this is an interesting twist of history. Artley particularly worked for Graff at the Graff coal mines. So that house will also be on the tour. So there's these neat little twists about it. So it's not only going to be coming and see it. People really want to see, you drive by so many homes, you say, I'd love to see the inside of that home. Mm-hmm. That gives you that opportunity, but it gives you that opportunity to learn a little bit about the original owner. So that's the twist, and it really fits in with, the Blairsville Underground Railroad. It's a historic organization. This fits in really a lot with the mission of keeping history alive. So
6 homes.
6 homes, plus Founders Gallery, which used to be the Campbell home.
And when does all this happen?
This happens April 7th from 2 to 6 p.m. The next day, April 8th, the Blairsville Underground Railroad in their museum will have an open house. So that one's free, but we're asking, the $20 to help fund. This is interesting. The museum needs a new furnace.
Oh,
so see, all this weather stuff starts playing back in. So this is part of the furnace fund, so we can get it heated up and do
Ask
tours.
Mr. Pitcairn, maybe he could.
Maybe Mr. Pitcairn and Mr. Graff can bring some coal from the days of coal. We're looking for a modern furnace, which costs a little bit more than the old-fashioned coal or wood-fired, and or more reliable, I think.
Yeah, probably. Probably. But this is all going to be happening now. How do people get their tickets?
I'm going to give you a couple of ways to do it. 724-599-8105, or you can go online. You can go on our Facebook page, Blairsville Underground Railroad, and I'll leave you a link that you can also go to and purchase tickets online. Keep in mind, $20 a ticket, 200 tickets, and we've already been selling tickets. So once we hit the 200, that's it for this year.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell any more than 200. We want to keep the homes. When you go to a lot of the homes to encourage people to participate, some people are with open arms, and other people are a little bit more reluctant. How many people are going to come through my house?
Sure,
what's the what's the cost going to be on the house? So,
are these self-guided tours, or is somebody going to take
they will be
take groups from home to home?
You'll have a map. It'll be self-guided through the 7 homes, like I said. And then when you get to the home, absolutely, you'll be able to meet the owners and some of the participants. Also, I want to make sure that if you're not real big on the internet, you can also get tickets. The Tourist Bureau is helping us sell them at the mall and the coffee shop on West Market Street in Blairsville. So if you're still one of those people that want to go pay the cash, get the ticket, also take credit cards, those are the other 2 places that you can get them. But that number again, 724-599-8105, and then the Underground Railroad website, where you can purchase them the newfangled.
There are more of us old-fashioned folks out there than you might believe, Dave.
I'm getting closer and closer to those old-fashioned folks every minute, believe me.
Well, it's such a wonderfully historic town, Blairsville is, with so much of, significance, not only to Indiana County, but because of its positioning, to really all of western Pennsylvania. Blairsville has a distinct footprint, doesn't it?
Blairsville, if you remember, Blairsville was, a lot of people don't remember, well, for obvious reasons, 'cause quite some time ago, the Pennsylvania Canal. That went from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, came through Blairsville, Saltsburg, right into Pittsburgh, ended in downtown on Liberty Avenue. But it was a canal town. Then it was a railroad town. And it was a railroad town. One of the interesting things, and I always love to talk about this, if you've ever been to Blairsville, so many trains came through Blairsville at one point that if you go where the Cafe de Baca is, Cafe Baca, there is a part where the trains go underneath the entire town. Oh, yeah. So there were so many trains coming through Blairsville one time for passenger and coal. Remember the coal? That the trains some had to go under town and some went above town. So prominence, we're sure that a lot of industry grew up around Blairsville, but also with the Blairsville Underground Railroad, it was in Indiana County was a hot spot for freedom seekers that came, and this was a stop on their way to Canada. So with the Blairsville Underground Railroad, if you haven't had a chance, the museum is rather fascinating. A lot of different pieces and parts of history that, as you mentioned, not only this wasn't only a part of Blairsville history in Indiana County, but of the nation. The Underground Railroad went throughout the country. Yeah. Indiana County was one of the big places that a lot of Underground Railroad conductors, many of which Mr. Graff, the Graff family, were Underground Railroad conductors. So there's that, that history has a way of intertwining itself through a lot of different things. Yeah, the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Underground Railroad, all the railroads converging there. Right, coming through Blairsville. Yeah, well, one of the interesting, I was born and raised in Bolivar, which is just up the road. And the Pack Saddle Gap, we'd ride the bikes right down alongside the tracks when we could. And my granddad worked on the railroad there. Okay. And he was on a crew where they would take bicycles. He was on a safety crew. Oh, interesting. They'd take their bicycles every day, and they would load them up onto the train that picked them up at the train station, take them to wherever they were doing their work. Right. The bicycles would serve as their emergency vehicles. If somebody got hurt, they could ride their bicycle to the nearest town and get help. To come. So they always took their bicycles with them. Yeah, that is, and the Pack Saddle Gap, interesting, is still functional today. Yeah, it is. So it's a whole other history lesson of the Pack Saddle Gap and portage over the mountains. I mean, this stuff is rather fascinating. This is just one little part. So when you come into Blairsville, getting to meet some of the people in the homes, you start to hear, the railroad's just one part of it. Laura Pershing Taylor's home will be on this. And if you know who Laura Pershing Taylor was, she was the first cousin to General John Pershing. So go back. Right. So exactly. So this is not just Blairsville history. So there's, a lot of, you got railroad history, you've got military history, you've got history in as far as the Underground Railroad. So it's just as you can see, there's a lot to see, a lot to hear in just little old Blairsville.
There you
sitting
go.
down off 22.
So April the 7th is when this tour happens.
April the 7th, 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Registration will start at 1 o'clock at the Underground Railroad on 214 South East Lane in Blairsville, which is a desanctified Baptist church. The organization had purchased it several years ago and has made it a functioning museum.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. But
and then
also,
the next day, the
next day, come on back to the History Center, and there'll be an open house. So once again, it gives you an opportunity to get in and learn a little bit more about the Underground Railroad, not only national history, but Blairsville history and Indiana County history. So you got 2 days. Come down for the home tour and then come back. I guarantee the weather will not be as cold.
I wouldn't do that, Dave, if I were you. Even as we look out at these snow flurries that were snow showers a couple of seconds ago and a temperature of 24 degrees, April in Pennsylvania can be 75 degrees at 11 o'clock and 25 degrees at 12. So I wouldn't make that guarantee.
I guarantee it'll be daylight between 2 to 6 on April 7th. How about that? I'll be a little bit more, I'm not a gambling man.
Even that's a bit of a stretch,
know,
but
isn't
okay. we'll go with you there. As the weather improves, so does the whole prospect for Blairsville, and such a nice little town.
It is.
Full of wonderful folks.
It is.
And they've got a pretty good girls basketball team in the playoffs
how about
right
that?
now.
Those girls keep rolling.
Yeah, and all of this history behind it. So it's a moving town, and we're liking it. So
we'd love to have you. Like I said, come on down to the tour, or come on down at any time. Again, if you'd like to tour the museum, 724-599-8105. And by appointment, we'll get you in there with groups or individuals. And it's interesting when you look at that. We have a little book where you sign, you come in. They're from all over the country.
Yeah.
Some people international that have come to learn about this part of American history that was the Underground Railroad and the abolition of slavery as it came through Indiana County.
Spent so much time in Blairsville as a kid. My dad worked at Vail Tech, and
neat. Somehow Wyatt Tech.
An amazing little childhood experience there in Blairsville. Okay, one last time. Contact information.
724-599-8105, or go on to the Underground Railroad webpage. I'll give it to you, www.undergroundrailroadblairsvillepa.com. That's kind of long. Or stop into the coffee shop on West Market, or the Tourist Bureau out at the mall, where one of the sponsors of the Tourist Bureau is helping us peddle some tickets for the tour, and then come back the next day, April 8th, 2 to 6 for the free open house of the restaurant, of the museum.
He's Dave Janusek. Good to see you again.
Good to be back.
It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, WCCS AM 1160 and FM 101.1.